Sinners. Oh my God. Sinners smashed the Oscar nomination record. They were nominated 16 times. So they outnudged Titanic, La La Land. So they have been nominated for 16 Oscars, including Best Picture, director Coogler.
You know how
Ryan
many people it takes to nominate somebody for an Oscar?
Ryan Coogler. I wanted to make sure I said his name
I know,
right.
but you know how many people it takes to nominate somebody for an Oscar?
How many?
There are 32,000 members of SAG-AFTRA who can vote. It only takes one to nominate somebody. So when you get that 5 nominations for Best Picture, that just means out of 32,000, them members are entitled to nominate and vote. You got one, two, three, four, five that made the nomination and took the time and weren't too bored by the process. It's political. And if you want to find out who's going to win an Oscar, go to the LGBTQ site and it'll tell you a week before the Oscars for the most part.
For the most part. But this year,
I mean, but it doesn't make any difference for ethnicity wise. But I thought it was a good picture. I saw it several times. It was a good
right?
vampire
Honestly,
movie.
it's a classic. So they're nominated supporting actress Wumi Mosaku. She's the one that played the love interest and baby mama to one of the twins, and she was the one that was into the hoodoo. They've also been nominated for makeup and hairstyle, for music, because that soundtrack, I bought the soundtrack. It is phenomenal. The other nomination is live action. No, not that's not them. What's the damn name? Oh, writing original screenplay. Yes. Um, Delroy Lindo, that's the one who played the harmonic and he was the alcoholic. Oh my God, seasoned legendary actor. He is nominated for supporting actor in a supporting role. Casting, they got nominated for casting. They got nominated for costume design. Of course, music, original score. I Lied to You. What else? Let's see here. Production design, film editing, sound, visual effects, cinematography, actor in a leading role, the gorgeous Michael B. Jordan, directing, of course, Ryan Coogler. Yes, and I hope he win. And of course, the big one, Best Picture. And they deserve every damn award because that movie is a classic.
I like the movie. I understand it might be a part two.
No, he said it's not going to be a part two. Nope.
There might be a part two.
He said the director is not
The
going to be a part
director, look at Star Wars. Is the director for all of the Star Wars franchises series the same person? No.
Let me correct myself. He is the producer, the writer, executive producer, him and his wife, and the director. He gets to see.
Yeah, I know, but studios bought the
Let me
rights.
give you the reason. He said he is never going to do a Sinners Part 2 because it's going to really, it's not going to be right for Sinners. Sinners is one. They said it all in one. It doesn't need a follow-up. It's a classic on its own. He said it's never going to be a part 2.
Well, the problem with that is if Hollywood works as Hollywood works, and he had a contract like Hollywood contracts typically are, the studio or studios who have the controlling interest in that can do anything they want with it, whether or not the director goes along with it. Look at the franchises, Star Trek, Star Wars, you look at those, look at the Alien, the Predator series and where they've gone. You have the same theme, but you don't have the same writers, producers, and directors. Look at Bram Stoker's Dracula, not the movie called Bram Stoker's Dracula, which just commemorated the book Bram Stoker's Dracula. that came out 120 some years ago, and look at Frankenstein's monster that Byron Shelley's wife, aggrieved wife, wrote as a lament to him dying at an early age. I mean, vampire Dracula, the whole concept's ancient. So you have an idea, and the idea is novel, but to have some Irish vampires, Celtic vampires, who are in the old South of the United States, or let's say the 1930s South, where the protagonists were enforcers for Al Capone, and they were colored and come back to open up a honky tonk. I mean, that's an interesting idea, but the studios basically acquired the rights to that idea as a matter of intellectual property, unless there's a very unusual contract. So the producer, director, the black guy who came up with the idea, might run into the fact that Hollywood has bamboozled him and he can't control what they do with his idea because they bought the rights to it.
So let me put this on the table, which is a fact, because actually, let me play this clip first, because this is Ben Affleck talking about the sweet deal that Ryan Coogler was able to negotiate.
He did a really smart thing with that deal, which is that he kind of related to this idea of kind of ownership, like talking about the Air and the Jordan deal earlier. Like, you're going to get the movie and you're going to release the movie, but they're going to be participants in it, and they got what's called a reversion, so that Ryan and I assume the other principal creators, the movie reverts back to his ownership, because there's a lot of value in a movie. The movies that are really successful, they have a lot of value in what's called like the tails. Like, that's why people they'll still license a movie for $10-20 million to Netflix or Prime or Max, that's been out a long time ago, because people will still watch it if it's like a big hit. So now Ryan will be able to not just get a piece of it now, but in 10 years when they're going to license Sinners again, that's all going back to him. And he bet on himself, right? And it really now accrues the value of that. Very, very sharp, very innovative. It was very controversial. So a lot of people were on the studio side were mad at Warner Brothers, because it was like, oh, you're giving away this value. But that's an example of like using that leverage. It's like, okay, you figure this guy's so good and he's got this cast and this script so good. He's like, this is what I want.
So, and just to elaborate more on his deal. So it says in 2021, a 5-year exclusive Disney deal with his production company, Proximity Media, to create TV content, including Wakanda series, and a highly publicized, groundbreaking Warner Brother deal for his 2025 film Sinners, which grants him significant box office cuts, final cut control, and eventually ownership rights revisions after a set period, a rare feat in Hollywood.
Actually, several years ago, I suggested this was the new approach for minority participants in Hollywood. There is a provision that I suggested a long time ago, which is a reversion of all interest after the lapse of, in this case, 25 years back to the gentleman in question. Also, the contract that Ben Affleck isn't talking about was the one I came up with with CBS, which is getting a percentage of the unadjusted gross from the first dollar. That's how you make your money with Hollywood, because they lie, cheat, steal. And when you are fool enough to go for a percentage of the net, they always zero it out, and they operate in terms not of cash flow, but reciprocity, courtesies, and mixing. So this is just standard, and I had this contract essentially with CBS 15 years ago, so it's nothing new. It's just that they won't give me a damn bit of credit for anything I did in the industry, and they're trying to Well, it was a good movie. I'm glad he got it, but I hope he also has a right of inspection for the books and he's got somebody to put the money up, if not himself, for somewhere between 150 and maybe 250 half million to do an audit, which will take, and I hope he's put that in because you can't find anything out unless you have a right to audit their books. They won't let it be done for the tax filings, but the rest of their records and accounts, if you have that provision in there, you are entitled to look at them and have auditors go through them. But the auditors have to wait in line, and usually they get a year, 2 years after an action has been filed, which means you have to have a court's indulgence to hold things off for the year and a half after the usual statute to file and a complaint occurs. So when you start trying to do this with the reversion 25 years from now, going back to you, you're going to run into this, that they only had to save the records under California law for 7 years unless you had a contract provision saying they did not, and they had to hold on to them for what was outside of the statutory requirements, which you can contract to do, but you had to put that in there. Otherwise, when you attempt to talk about reversions, you're going to have a hard time finding out what you're talking about. So the deal is get a good law firm to represent you who has handled these matters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure he has one, but yeah,
Maybe. Maybe. And I had a damn good law team, but the problem is my lawyer turned up missing and he hasn't been seen in 13 years. They think he's dead.
All right. Well, listen, congratulations to Sinners. I want them to win every award, especially director, especially best picture, director, leading actor, and supporting actor and actress, and costume and music. So, yeah.
I like vampire movies. It was a change. I liked it. It was done well. The only failing in the movie that I would note is that scene, those scenes in the honky tonk on the night in question, where they were attempting to put visuals in there of the ancestral antecedents to the music you were listening to and the future evolution of the music. I thought that was kind of
collage. Yeah, the collage.
Yeah, that was cornball. They should have edited that out.
Yeah. But congratulations.
I understand why they shot it, but they should have edited it out. It was fascinating, but it was kind of boring, off point, and distracted from the main storyline.
Yeah. True. They could have replaced it with something else, but
they didn't need to replace it. Just leave it out and focus on some of the rest of what was going on. There were some things in there they left out when it comes to what developed outside. You know, like you see them and then you see them as vampires after they've come back. Some of the people that were in there, they could have elaborated a little bit more on it getting turned and how they turned so quickly, when some of the people had a delay in the time that it took them to turn. Mm-hmm. That could have been explained instead of that. You see somebody beating on some ancestral drums out of the jungle, or you see somebody with an electric guitar, you know, from somewhere in the unspecified future. But, you know, it is what it is. And I hope they don't cheat him on the box office, because there was language about how horrible the movie was.
They tried to
it. Yeah. And see, the other thing is I used to threaten some of the movie managers. We had a lot of them around here 35 years ago, and I required, amongst other things, that my probationers go see Malcolm X. Singleton came up with that, but my bailiff and I, one of them, we would travel around to see if these people I ordered to be in line to watch were in line. They were, but when I said, let me see your ticket, you know what the ticket was showing? every single time we checked, it was showing Beauty and the Beast by Walt Disney, not Malcolm X. So I would threaten to have the management arrested, and I said, I think maybe a $250,000 bond would be appropriate on this. If you don't take every one of these tickets and replace it with the ticket showing Malcolm X, well, they'll get in. I said, no, the money is going to Walt Disney for Beauty and the Beast, not Singleton for Malcolm X. So this is fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also contempt of this court because they couldn't prove it to me because they don't have a stub to show to me that they complied with my orders saying they saw Malcolm X rather than Beauty and the Beast. So you are interfering with the court's operation. See how that worked? That was nice. And they would go back and Singleton would get the money for that. Otherwise, Walt Disney would. Walt Disney had a huge box office for Beauty and the Beast. But since several other cities I went to the conferences, I went and saw the movie, and everybody in line at those movies had Beauty and the Beast tickets for Walt Disney rather than Malcolm X. So I suspect Beauty and the Beast was really a flop, but for the cheat they were putting on Singleton so he didn't get credit for what he did. See, they do that, and that's one of the low-down stunts that Hollywood pulls off all the time. See, that's why they hate me. I can tell people that I was a judge, so it wasn't like about be careful if you are getting into that. If anybody out there is listening and is interested in this Hollywood swamp, best deal you're going to get is a certain percentage of the unadjusted gross from the first dollar. Have a contract provision dealing with a clear understanding of how long you have to file an action. Also have in your contract a right to inspect their books and accounts. Now, they'll exclude anything having to do with their tax circumstances. That's routine, but you can request the rest. While you're doing what you're doing, put 150 to 250,000 away so you can get to it and pay for the audit. Have something in there about the statute of limitations running so that you get a chance to get the audit because the wrong is done. Generally, what they're going to do is put a contract provision that says you have 1 year to bring a complaint. Otherwise, you contract to give up that right to complain. And the problem is you usually have to wait in line a year, 2 years to get an audit done. So be aware of these circumstances and get a good law firm that represents you if you ever get involved in this, and make sure that these lawyers understand the big picture and they have the balls to take on Hollywood. It's not safe. I had a good lawyer who always won, and he always prevailed in my cases against Paramount and then CBS. But, you know, these are the things that happen because there's a lot of money involved in these matters, and it is what it is. So noted this thing about reversion. You can contract to have all rights revert to you. This is something that came about as a result of a movie known as The Blob. It was a B-grade horror movie, and the star was told there wasn't much money to hire him, so he said, that's all right. I'll just take a percentage of the box office with some of these other conditions. And he wound up becoming very rich and a very big Hollywood star as a result of that. So be aware of these things.